Hey everyone, welcome to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer. Welcome. This is our 49ers final practice recap of the week as we get ready for the 49ers versus the Los Angeles Rams down at Levi Stadium South, also known as SoFi Stadium, on Sunday. 49ers Rams. This will be the first of two matchups between the two NFC West rivals. The San Francisco 49ers having won the last 8 during the regular season. Over the last 4 seasons, they haven't lost in the regular season. They have lost, however, in the NFC Championship game. That was at the end of the 2021 campaign. So here's the deal for today. We're going to go through, I'll give you my practice recap. We'll go through some of the concerns for this game ahead for the 49ers against the Rams in terms of injuries, those types of things. Also, I want to make this interactive. So this is also a little bit of a question and answer. If you are a member of the Toolbox, shoot your question out. If you want a super chat, shoot that out. Members, super chats always get first dibs in terms of getting their answers, the questions answered. But also, I'll take all of them. So send them over. Your 49ers related questions will get answered today. We'll get you ready for this game. We'll also be doing another show tomorrow, as well as a pregame show live from from SoFi Stadium. They almost called it Levi Stadium down in Southern California. I'll be at SoFi Stadium on Sunday for the game. I'll be doing the final pregame report from inside the stadium for you all. So let's get to it. Let's take a look at the 49ers, the Rams, their practice recap for today. So for the San Francisco 49ers, one player will be out for Sunday's game. That'll be cornerback Samuel Womack. Womack didn't practice yesterday, out again today. He actually suffered an MCL injury in his knee during practice on Wednesday. That kept him out of the practice the last couple of days, and it's actually going to land Samuel Womack on injured reserve. So the second-year cornerback, Samuel Womack, suffering an MCL injury during practice on Wednesday. He will be out this week, and he will be going on IR. Kyle Shanahan telling us after practice today that the team hopes to have Womack back within 6 to 8 weeks. That's the time period there. So that is the one player that's out. Womack, this is actually a big injury for the 49ers. Womack is a really nice outside cornerback, and play inside as well, but really more focused on the outside this year than a year ago. Nice depth piece for the 49ers there. Also helps out on special teams. He's going to be missed. He's going to be out for the next 6 to 8 weeks, like I said, with an injured MCL. 49ers have had a lot of MCL injuries last year. Running back Elijah Mitchell dealt with one early in the season, injured his MCL in week 1 out in Chicago. So this isn't anything new that the 49ers, they've dealt with this in recent years, 6 to 8 weeks. If they do this right, Womack should be ready to go and back. But for the 49ers, now what did they do? There's a couple of options here, actually 3. They have Trace Willing, Shamar Jean-Charles, and Qwuantrezz Knight. They're all on the practice squad. So the 49ers have yet to make a corresponding move in terms of what they're going to do. They're going to have to add a player to the roster. It'll probably be one of those players off the practice squad, as I just mentioned. They haven't mentioned yet who that has not come out yet. I would expect the 49ers to probably make that announcement tomorrow as they get ready. There'll be some players from the practice squad that would be coming up naturally anyway. There's always movement and roster changes that come up on Saturday before the game. I would expect to hear from the 49ers tomorrow who will be replacing on the roster, who will be replacing Samuel Womack. Again, Womack going on short-term IR with a injured MCL in his knee. So if you guys have questions, if there's anything you want to ask, go ahead, shoot away in the comment section. So we'll get to it. Trayvan 6890 he already asked the question, Jack, who do you think will replace Womack? And again, I think what you're going to see, I don't know which direction they're going to go here, but you look at the list of guys that they can choose from. Trace Willing, he looked okay during training camp as an outside corner. He struggled a little bit, but at the same time, wasn't terrible. That's why he was brought back. He's a veteran that's been around the NFL for a little while. Qwuantrezz Knight is also there. Knight, a little bit more of a slot corner safety type of guy. Those are both, I think, two that we know of in terms of having watched them go through training camp with the 49ers. Shamar Jean-Charles, this is an interesting one. He's from the Green Bay Packers. They brought him over after training camp. He was added to the practice squad. I remember when that signing was made, General Manager John Lynch talked about his ability to play on special teams and the importance there. And so we'll see which direction they go. I think that you may see him come up just because in this game, if the expectation is for that guy to mostly be for the replacement from Womack to mostly be a guy that's going to be on special teams, you may see Jean-Charles be doing that. Otherwise, it'll be either Trey Swilling or Quantrez Knight that will be brought up to the practice squad. A couple other things in terms of practice notes. Kyle Shanahan saying today that rookie cornerback Darrell Luter Jr. is expected to return to practice from the PUP list around week 5, maybe week 6. So we're still a couple of weeks away from the rookie making his debut on the field. We haven't seen Darrell Luter Jr. Really since the OTAs. He was injured pretty much ever since. I think he might have been out there for the first day or two of training camp, but that was it. I don't even think he was out there for that. So he's missed quite a bit of time. But the 49ers are hoping that they can activate him from the physically unable to perform list, either starting week 5 or week 6. Once they do that, they can take a couple of weeks to get him up to speed before they decide whether or not they're going to elevate him to the active roster, what they're going to do there. So that's another little note that comes from this one. Also, in terms of the 49ers practice notes for today, one other item, the 49ers naming their practice squad players of the week today. Those practice squad players of the week were running back Ty Davis-Price, defensive end Austin Bryant, and wide receiver Isaiah Winstead. They were the scout team players of the week. Ty Davis-Price, this is an interesting one. This is a guy that 49ers took in the 3rd round. He's right now, I think, 4th on the depth chart with the 49ers. Getting a lot of reps here, though, at least with that scout team, giving that defense a good look, getting them ready to stop the run. The Rams have struggled against the 49ers in the last 4 matchups during the regular season. They've averaged just over 3 yards a carry, 3.01 yards a carry. The most that they've had in any game against the 49ers during that 4-game stretch has been 64 yards. In one of the 4 games, I don't remember exactly which one it is. Austin Bryant, though, we saw him. This is a guy that has been around the NFL for a while. I was actually a teammate at Clemson with Clelin Ferrell. He played a little bit on Sunday in the game against the Steelers. He was elevated off the practice squad for that. And there goes the 49er Express on its way down to Los Angeles to get ready for the game on Sunday. Also, Isaiah Winstead. I like that one. I really like Isaiah Winstead. I think he has really good hands. He's a really good receiver, I feel. I would like to see Isaiah Winstead maybe get a chance at a call-up at some point this season because he really looked good during the preseason to me. Last note on practice today, Dre Greenlaw. So Dre Greenlaw missed practice on Wednesday due to the groin. He was a limited participant yesterday. Dre Greenlaw, a full participant for the 49ers today. He will be a go on Sunday. He has no status report at all for the game. All the 49ers are cleared except for Samuel Womack. So good news for the 49ers coming out of this week of practice, right? Really so far, all the way through, being that they are healthy, probably the healthiest we've seen them in a while. And that's really good news for them. So good stuff there for San Francisco in terms of the injuries. Not the same for the Los Angeles Rams. They're dealing with some injuries down that way. But before I get there, I had a question that I wanted to address. Where is it? Texas Niner coming into the house. He says, Jack, do you have any idea where Kalen LeBourne has gone? I know he was waived by the 49ers. Kalen LeBourne, he went and he got himself a passport, and he is up in Canada. Kalen LeBourne is right now, he is playing in the Canadian Football League. He is a member of the Edmonton Elks, formerly the Edmonton Eskimos, but the Edmonton Elks of the CFL. Kalen LeBourne is running the ball for them up in Canada at this moment. So good for him. Good to see that he landed a job in professional football, making some money, but he's out of the NFL at this point, playing for the Edmonton Elks up in Canada. So as you said there, good for that kid. Yeah, that's definitely good. Good for him. The Notorious Gav says the 49ers Sack Express coming through. There you go. That is even a better name for that train that passes every 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it seems like. The 49ers Sack Express. That's a good one, Gav. Thanks for the heads up, and also thank you for reminding me to make sure I watch Welcome to Wrexham tonight, so I get caught up on the show, because episode 1, I can't miss it. It's my favorite show. Let's see what else we've got. A couple other questions I want to hit. Gav also asking me Jack, is there a direct correlation to Kyle Juszczyk's targets going down to us signing Christian McCaffrey? And as Christian McCaffrey taking away certain looks Juice would have had if Christian wasn't on the team? No, they're different. I think that I don't think that he's taking away any looks. I just think that overall, to begin with, Kyle Juszczyk's a little underutilized by the 49ers. I would like to see them getting him the ball a little more often and having him be a bigger part of the passing game. Maybe just having him be a little bit closer, farther up in those progressions would be the key there. But you look at where the 49ers are, you look at where Kyle Juszczyk is, and somebody put the stat out there. I think it was 58% of the time or something like that. It was a big number, the highest in the NFL last week in terms of the usage of 21 personnel. That's 2 running backs, one tight end on the field. 49ers use that the most of any team in the league, and it makes sense. When you look at the San Francisco 49ers and you look at the roster, you look at who they have on offense, 21 personnel is using the 49ers utilizing their best players, putting them the best guys on the field. Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and Deebo Samuel. And they're going to spend most of their time in that 21. The only time they get out of 21 generally is when they get to a spot where they're behind the chain. So if it's 3rd and 7, maybe second, 1st and 20, those type of situations, then they'll go to 11 personnel. But they're predominantly a 21 personnel team, 11 on long downs. Every once in a while, depending on the matchup, you'll see them use a little bit more 2 tight ends, 12 personnel setup type of setup. Typically, that is something that they've done a little bit more of against the Rams, speaking of this game coming up. But I don't see them necessarily want to get out of utilizing Kyle Juszczyk, at least not this year. I think Kyle Juszczyk being on the field, utilizing 21 personnel, there's not really anything they can run out of 12 that they can't run out of 21 because of what Kyle Juszczyk brings to the table. So that's a good question, Gab. Thanks for asking. Robbie439 says, losing Deshaun Jameson is an even bigger deal now. Yeah, in a way, it definitely is. It just depends on, keeping him, who you taking off of this roster. Maybe Nick Zakelj, I guess, would be probably the one that you would take off. Nick Zakelj would be on another roster, though, as well. And he's somebody I think the Flyers are going to need to lean on in the years to come along this offensive line, which is why they're holding on to him and didn't want to expose him to getting claimed through waivers. But yeah, Deshaun Jameson would be a nice have right now for the 49ers if they had not released him, and he got picked up by the Carolina Panthers, and he's a member of their active roster now. So that's a big loss there. Mark says, yeah, we need Luter soon. He's the best rookie cornerback. I think he's the only rookie cornerback that this roster has right now. I don't think there's any other rookies on the roster. So technically you're 100% right, Mac. That is a good one. Moonman says, I skipped him. I probably did. Moonman, let me scroll through. Let me see if I find you. Here we go. Poof, perfect. Here, I didn't miss you. Thanks for telling me that I screwed up. Moonman. Moonman says, what up, Jack? What do you think the nickel position, what we doing? What do you think about the nickel position? What we doing? I think in the nickel spot, it really just depends on the matchup. I think this week with the quicker type of slot receiver that you see, like in Tutu Atwell, the other Puka Nacua, excuse me. He's a little bit more of a Juwan Jennings type physical route runner. I think that matches up better with having Deommodore Lenoir in there. If Ambry Thomas, if they go in another direction and it is Isaiah Oliver, it's all about Ambry Thomas and the 49ers feeling that he's making too many mistakes to be kept out on the edge. So we'll see on that one. I think that is really one of the biggest question marks in this game is can the 49ers in the slot win? The 49ers, they don't have to face Cooper Kupp, but they've always kind of struggled against Cooper Kupp and the Rams. The Rams really like to work the inside, work with that slot receiver. And so it's always been Cooper Kupp, but now it's a couple different guys, Nacua and Tutu Atwell, both running in there. You look at this game and going back to the practice reports that I was talking about and really quick that just hit on the Rams practice report. The Rams have 4 players listed as questionable. One of those is wide receiver Puka Nacua. Nacua had 10 catches, 119 yards in the season opening game up in Seattle, had 15 targets, the most of any player on the Rams. most of any player in this game between the 49ers and the Rams from week one. Nacua, 15 targets, 10 catches, 119 yards. He's listed right now as questionable. He has an oblique injury. He suffered that a couple of days ago. He missed practice. He missed practice on Thursday. He was a limited participant today. So he's questionable. Also, linebacker Ernest Jones is questionable. He was out ill. Center Coleman Shelton is questionable with a toe injury, as is safety Russ Yeast with a knee. According to Rams head coach Sean McVay, he expects all four of these guys to play on Sunday, though. So expect Nacua to play. Again, an oblique injury. If you remember last year, 49ers quarterback last year you had the 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy have an oblique injury up in Seattle, and Purdy with that oblique injury, when we found out later, was that it was actually a broken rib. So we'll find out. We don't know exactly how bad the oblique injury is for Nacua, but I would think that playing with a broken rib for a wide receiver would have to be painful, especially when it comes to getting hit. And the 49ers defense in that secondary is particularly physical. So we'll see how that all goes. But again, you look at this team, you look at the 49ers right now, and you look at this matchup, and I really think that interior of the defense against the Rams offensive line is where this game's going to be won and lost. So they need to be able to get after them up front. I think that's one of the biggest things. So again, really quick, just let me give you the practice rundown, because that's what the title of the show is, the practice recap. We'll do the practice recap, and then we'll get into your concerns, get into your questions. We've already done a couple, but there's a couple of others that I see over here that I definitely want to get to. Really quick, for the 49ers, the only player that's out is going to be cornerback Samuel Womack. For the Rams, linebacker Ernest Jones, wide receiver Puka Nacua, center Coleman Shelton, and safety Russ Yeast are listed as questionable. All four expected to play, though. So let's get to some of your questions as we get through here. So I think this one, I want to hit this one really quick. Texas Niner right here says, Jack, has anything come out with what the 49ers plan to do with the $41 million in cap? Here's my expectation. I think, you look at the 49ers, and they have a lot of players that they need to re-sign. They have their own players. They have Brandon Ayuk as a player who they need to bring back. They also have another player that's very important to what they do in Talanoa Hufanga, who is going to be entering the final year of his contract that the 49ers, I think, are going to want to try to get a new deal done with. So here's the way that I think this $41 million, it's going to go towards Ayuk. It's going to go towards it's also going to go towards Talanoa Hufanga, and it's going to go towards some of their other guys as well that have deals that are going to be coming up. They have all this cap space right now. Let's say they just go ahead and they don't touch it at all this season. They go out through this entire season. Well, that means that they can roll over $41 million in cap savings till next year. So that'll put them well over the cap, or well under the cap, for next season. Because right now, if you look at their salary cap number, let me pull it up really quick just to make sure that I'm not talking out of my hiney. The 49ers salary cap, I think they're going to be at about, if I'm correct, their number is right around $7 million for next year that they're over at this point. So let me just double check those so that I can give you guys the exact numbers. Right now, the 49ers in 2024 are sitting with, let me find it if I can, here it is, $5.6 million. That's their dead cap. Their cap space is minus $24 million right now. That's according to over the cap. Now let me take a look at this one other spot here so that I can get a better number for you. I just trying to get all of the particulars. I'm going to use a different one here. I'm going to use SpotTrack, which I don't use as much. But SpotTrack has the 49ers right now for next season with $4 million of cap space. So a big difference between those two sites. One has them at $4 million. The other one has them at minus 24. Either way, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see the 49ers roll that $41 million over. Let's say that's how much because of the rollover, let's say that's what they have to start the season with, start the new year league with. One of the things that they can do is some of the players that they extended to get to this $41 million in cap space, and we're talking about George Kittle, Trent Williams, and so on. they can extend them again. Eric Armstead, another one, those three players, they can do it again. They can do another restructuring of those guys next year and then double up on this money and actually, get some more money. Obviously, it's kicking the can down the road every time you do a restructures, but I think that's really what they're looking to do is they're trying to roll over that money now and then double dip and get a little bit more next year for some of those veteran guys so they can really keep this core group together and really get themselves in a good spot. They can't touch Brock Purdy's contract until after next season, after 2024, so going into 2025. Even then, you would expect them to be able to keep that salary cap number relatively low when it comes to quarterback standards for a couple of years. If that's the direction that they go, they probably keep it the same in 2025, with it being an extension kicking in 2026. And that's where most of it would hit. It probably pop up a little bit because of a signing bonus and those types of things, but they're in good spot. I think the 49ers are in a really good spot when it comes to the salary cap. Obviously down the road, things might get a little tight, but even then, they've done a pretty good job of setting themselves up to be able to get out of it. Some of these guys, you're going to have some dead cap when they retire, those types of things. We saw that with the 49ers last year, with the center retiring and so on, but they can move things around. I think that $41 million is going to grow, and I think you're going to see it actually be utilized next year. Like Gav says, roll that cap over, pay Ayuk, pay Talanoa Hufanga, pay these guys that are coming up through your own roster. That's really where the expectation is for the San Francisco 49ers. Another one that could be coming up after next season. You're also going to be looking at Brandon. It's not Brandon Ayuk, excuse me, at Aaron Banks here pretty soon. Banks in year 3 right now. So it's coming up. A lot of these players are starting to come around. Blind Tom, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, "Are you enjoying going to the away games? Have a great time. Go Niners." Yeah, I didn't go to the game out in Pittsburgh. I had some things come up that required me to stay home. That was a bummer. I really wanted to get to Pittsburgh. The 49ers won't play there again for another 8 years. Who knows where I'll be in 8 years, and who knows, I might be doing something different. But I expect to be covering the 49ers, but who knows? So I wanted to be out there, didn't work out. But yeah, this will be the third time that I've been down to SoFi. I went down the first time was in 2021 for the NFC Championship game. That was a lot of fun. It was a different experience because I actually covered the game, wasn't in the press box because they'd set me up in a spot where I was going to be in the cafeteria watching the game on TV. And I said, no, I didn't come all the way down to Los Angeles to watch the game on TV. Took my computer, my backpack, and found a spot in the standing room only section and stood there amongst a bunch of Rams fans in the end zone on the side where I was actually in the end zone where Deebo Samuel scored the touchdown early in the game, opposite of where all the scoring ended in the second half. That ended up losing the game for the 49ers. But it's a lot of fun. The away games are always interesting. I had never traveled on an airplane to a 49ers game until last year when I went out to Chicago. Then I also got to go out to Philadelphia for the NFC Championship game. So, just super lucky and fortunate for what I get to do. Just that's partly what this channel is about. This channel is about sharing those experiences with all of you. It's also about making sure I bring you the best coverage of the team as well. And if we're, just in a complete honesty, the money that I make on YouTube is actually more than what I get paid by the newspaper to cover the team. So the more subscribers, the more views, the more watch hours that I get here on YouTube, the more money that I make. And that money all goes towards helping me to be able to cover the team 100% of the time. And I'm building and wanting to build to the point where I can hit every game during the season. That's just right now, not like, just can't do it, but we're working towards it. So Blind Tom, that $10 is very nice. I appreciate it. Fable JVC says, hit those likes, help Jack get paid. That's right. Hit those that like button, because hitting the like button helps to grow the bandwidth and gets it out there in front of more folks. So that's always a positive. Let's see what else we've got just looking through. Red Eye says Huff isn't a top safety yet. He's only going to get 10 to 12 mil per season for his second contract. I don't know. I would disagree with that to be a little bit. And the reason I would say I disagree is Talanoa Hufanga was a first team NFL All-Pro last season, which means he was one of the top 2 safeties in the league. I know that those awards, are a little bit based on splash plays and those kind of things. And Hufanga had a bunch of interceptions early on. But again, he also got his first interception of this year in week 1 as well. Just like last year, he got an interception in that game against the Bears. I expect him to get more than that 10 to 12. He's going to be one of the higher paid safeties in the league, I think, just because of where they are. Trevon 6890 says, I expect the Rams to throw many screen passes. I don't know about screen passes. They are a screen team, kind of like the 49ers. One of the things, when you watch the Niners and the Rams, one of the things that always jumps out is how good Higbee is for them as a wide receiver. He really causes problems for San Francisco with his ability to pick up yards after the catch. And the 49ers, again, the slot, when it comes to the 49ers, they seem to have the most trouble with those guys in the slot, with that tight end position when it comes to their coverage. So we'll see how it all plays out, but I would expect to see, I don't expect to see a bunch of bombs away throws at all. I agree. I understand where you're coming from when you say screens, those types of things, because, again, the 49ers have such a fast pass rush. It makes sense that we'll be working underneath and try to get the ball out quickly. So, you got to keep an eye, though, on Higbee and tight end Brycen Hopkins. Higbee with 3 catches for 49 yards up in Seattle last week. Hopkins, 1 catch for 21 yards. The two of them, those 4 catches by the tight ends, all going for first downs last week. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And then you look at the other 2 wide receivers, again, in Nacua and Atwell. They're the big play guys. Van Jefferson is a little bit more of their possession type of receiver. He had 4 catches for 24, but Atwell 6 catches, 119, all 6 going for first downs. Nacua 10 catches, 119, 6 of his 10 going for first downs. So 17 of the Rams first downs coming by the way of the pass last week out in Seattle in that big win. And this is a big game for both of these teams. You look at the 49ers and the Rams. The 49ers were expected to be at the top of the NFC. NFC period, and also expected to be at the top of the NFC West as well. The winner of this game is going to be a game up on the rest of the division in the NFC West. The 49ers could be a game and a half up on the Rams because of the tiebreaker. They could also be there'll be 2 games. They could be a game to 2 games up on both Seattle and Arizona, depending on how those games go. Arizona taking on the Giants on Sunday, before the Giants come out here. And that's another thing to think about. We're here on Friday, heading into week 2. By this time next week, the 49ers are either going to be 3-0, 2-1, or 1-2, because they have 2 games between now and next Friday. Sunday down in LA. Then we come back for the actual home opener here at Levi Stadium on Thursday of next week against the New York Giants. So that's just going through your comments. I don't see any other super chats at this moment, but yeah, that's another one. Red Eye is another restructuring that CMC that could be. I think they also did restructure him this offseason, earlier in the offseason. I was looking at more of the moves that they're going to be making further on down the road. Gav is a big Kerry Hyder guy this year. Says, do you think Kerry Hyder can continue to get sacks and stay on our practice squad? He's an interesting guy. Kerry Hyder is. He's an interesting look for the 49ers because I don't think he's put up numbers really anywhere other than San Francisco. I know his numbers haven't come with anybody other than Chris Kocurek. So, how much do teams want to bring in a Kerry Hyder and add them to, add them to their active roster? I think that's the bigger question. Same thing with Austin Bryant. Those are 2 really nice players that the 49ers have. And so we'll see what happens there. I think both those guys would be tough if they were to get plucked off of the practice squad, both Kerry Hyder and Austin Bryant. Hyder sack coming late in the game. That was a big one for the 49ers. So I think that's a good question right there. There's a possibility that he would get picked up by somebody else if something happens. Yeah, Fable, we hit that on that one earlier. So yeah, no worries. Again, 49ers cornerback Samuel Womack going on IR. He's going to get placed on IR. He hasn't been placed there yet, but that's the direction that this is going. In terms of the people that could replace him, real quick, just to address that part of the question if you haven't heard it already. Trace Willing, Shamar Jean-Charles, and Quantrez Knight are defensive backs currently on the 49ers practice squad that could get called up for Sunday. Somebody's going to get added to the active roster. Not sure if it's going to be one of those three. Maybe that's where you see a guy like either Austin Bryant or Gavs guy, Kerry Hyder Jr. could also be an option to bring up to the active roster for this week. I don't think that's going to necessarily be the case, but we'll see which direction they go. They're going to have to add somebody. I don't think they're going to want to keep that space open. I think they're going to want to fill it. And I think it's probably most likely going to be one of those three. Again, we're talking about Shamar Jean-Charles, who they picked up from the Green Bay Packers, Trace Willing and Quantrez Knight, who have been in 49ers camp and on their practice squad now for a couple of years. This is the second season for Smalling, I believe. I think Knight, this is either his second or third. So just a good question, though, that you had there. Yeah, and Red Eye says it was a sprained MCL for Womack. Absolutely. Daryl says, Stafford going to test our secondary. Not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. Hey, and I'm with you on this one, Daryl. I do think that there's a possibility that Stafford gets after the 49ers secondary a little bit. And this is one, if you're going to argue with me and say that the 49ers defensive line is going to make it so that he doesn't have enough time, I'm not going to argue back. I think that would be a good argument to have from anybody in the comment section from your perspective, right? The 49ers defensive line is a completely different animal from what the Los Angeles Rams faced last week against Seattle. You know, you look back over the 49ers, with the 49ers and the Rams, and it seems like almost on a regular basis, there's in every game that Matthew Stafford has played since he's come in here, that there's been at least one or two times that he's thrown the ball and put it in harm's way for the 49ers to go and get it. Looking at this game, again, it's all about getting to the quarterback for the 49ers. Against Matthew Stafford last season, the 49ers got to him 11 times. They also hit him another 8 in both of their victories last year. So 11 total sacks last year against Matthew Stafford and the Rams, 8 quarterback hits. Getting after Stafford really causes issues. And, this is a 49ers defense that last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers was able to hurry, get around Kenny Pickett 20 times. They dropped him for 5 sacks. They hit him 4 times, hurried him another 20. So he had guys around him all day. That's part of the reason that he struggled. You watch the game and there's guys that are open in the secondary and there's just some bad throws by Kenny Pickett. And I think some of that is Kenny Pickett. Some of that is the 49ers defense. Matthew Stafford is going to beat you more often than Kenny Pickett in terms of being able to stand in against the rush and make a throw and make it accurate, even when he's going to get hit. That's one of the things that one of the reasons why I felt like Kyle Shanahan wanted to go out and get him or wanted to go out and get Matthew Stafford back in 2021 is Kyle Shanahan likes his quarterbacks to be tough. He likes toughness in his quarterbacks. I think that's one of the reasons why one of the many reasons that Kyle Shanahan really likes Brock Purdy now is because of the toughness that he showed. And he's talked about it. Kyle Shanahan's talked about that toughness that Purdy showed by playing with the oblique injury, which was the cracked rib on the short week up in Seattle last year. And Matthew Stafford has been a tough competitor in the league. He's going to stand in there. He's going to take hits. But yeah, the more you get around him, the more likely it is that you're going to cause a problem for him. You look at this game, it's pressure, pressure, pressure. The other thing too, the 49ers against the Rams, something else has happened. You look back to last season, the first time these two teams met last year, you got a pick six. Back in 2021, the first time these two teams met, you had a pick six. So, the secondary is going to be out to go get it. And, but you've got to make sure that you get pressure on them as Thomas, because if you do get pressure, like Thomas says here, Stafford forces passes. He does. And I wouldn't say that he can't move. He can move if you give him a wide open lane. We saw that in the NFC Championship game back in 2021. He had a run for about 14 yards. Double-digit yards. I know that. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but he had a nice run. That was a big run at that point in the game. He can move. He's not your prototypical guy who's going to get out there and move all over the field. He's not going to be running around like crazy, but he can get out there. He can move around in the pocket. He does a good job of that. Again, it's just that he's not, he's not, who would I say, like Brock Purdy in terms of how much Purdy moves around. No, you're not going to see that from Matthew Stafford. He's not Patrick Mahomes type where you've really got to worry about him escaping the pocket and really have a plan for him. But at the same time, you need to maintain your rush lanes, because if you don't keep your rush lanes, he can beat you with his legs if he needs to. So we'll see on that, how that plays out on Sunday. And we'll get into a lot more of that on Sunday during the pregame show. And this is a good one too. Gav says, I like how Greenlaw got his bag and there's been no drop off. I respect that commitment. Too many people get paid and drop off the year after, and the 49ers have really done a good job of that. He's done a really good job of that. Thomas coming in and clarifying his statement to me on Stafford, saying that he's not going to be able to move enough. And I can understand, especially when you look at the way the 49ers got pressure on Kenny Pickett on Sunday. It wasn't just one guy. It was usually in waves. And if it wasn't the first guy that got him, then he'd start to move. Pickett is actually one of those guys that has really good movability. All of a sudden he'd get moved off of his spot. He'd have to start to go. And then you got Drake Jackson chasing him down for a sack, or Jake, coming up the middle, or Drake Jackson chasing him on the outside, getting to him, bringing him down for the sack. I think that's the biggest, that's the biggest thing. And I know I talked about it on the game after the game on Sunday with Drake Jackson, how during the offseason I had said that I felt like Jackson was the guy that was going to make the biggest year 2 leap among the 49ers second-year players. And, somebody mentioned to me about my concerns that I had shared with Drake Jackson, saying that he wasn't it during training camp. And I think that when I made the statement that I felt like Jackson was going to be the guy that was going to take the year 2 leap, if you look at the article over at 49ers.pressdemocrat.com, I even had a show, wasn't a show, but a clip here on YouTube that you can look up. What I said then was that Drake Jackson is a guy who isn't going to win on his own very often, but Drake Jackson's a guy who can chase the quarterback down. He's a great motor guy. He's a great closer. And when I'm saying closer, and when I'm talking about closer, when it comes to Drake Jackson, it's that closing speed to make the tackle. He's exceptional at that. He can really get after quarterbacks in that way. I was on earlier with Larry Kruger here on the channel, Larry talking about that as well, how it's just, he just needs to keep himself going, keep running, keep his feet moving, and he'll get to the quarterback. And I see that. I agree with him 100%. And then you have Nick Bosa on one side, and you go back and you look at Nick Bosa and watch what he does. On one of the sacks on Sunday, Nick Bosa is out there taking on 2 guys. He's actually 3 guys. You've got the left tackle, the left guard, and another running back out there. And I think that was on Drake Jackson's second or third sack of the day. Was just a really nice one. I'm trying to see if I can find it really quick, because I'd like to show it. It was really something. Hold on one second. I'm looking through it right now, looking through the film as I'm rambling on. I'm almost there. I thought I had it, and then had a little issue with my copy of the game. So let me see if I can get to it. But if not, we will show it another time. But it was just a really nice job, and it really shows the impact that Bosa has on the field. I'm having too much trouble with it, and I don't want to keep you guys waiting, but that's something maybe I'll bring up tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to have a show on the channel. We're going to talk about Brock Purdy. We're going to talk about all the different things that he does and some of the things that people have missed when it gets to him. So that's a big part of it too. Notorious Gav comes in. He says, "Show us the Kerry Hyder sack or we riot." I like Gav. Gav is one of the things that I like about Gav is he doesn't like all the regular suspects. He goes, he's a Kerry Hyder guy. He's a Kyle Juszczyk guy. He's a 21 personnel lover. He's all about that, all about those guys, which I enjoy. So good stuff there. Let me see if I can find it for Gav. We'll see if I can get it real quick. The sack for Kerry Hyder. I'm fast forwarding through the game. Let me see if I can get it, Gav, because you deserve to see it. I don't. That was not the one I was looking for right there. Let me see if I can get to it. It's got to be around here somewhere. Does anybody remember when that sack occurred? That's the last one. That's not the one I want. Kerry Hyder sack was in the third quarter, fourth quarter. I don't know. Gav, give me a minute. I'll find it. I'll keep talking. What other things you got? He says he's also says he's a Jack Coletto too. Well, I can't blame it, Gav, for being a Jack Coletto fan. That makes total sense. Anybody who's named Jack Hammer, I would be a big fan of his too. So that's a good choice on your part to be a big fan of Jack Coletto, because the Jack Hammer is a good, heck, you can't have a better nickname than the Jack Hammer, especially when I'm named Jack Hammer. So perfect there. Let me see if I can find when that sack came down for Kerry Hyder so that I can stop talking about it and actually find it. Just can't seem to get to where that is. I thought it was in the fourth quarter, but I kept missing it there. Yes, it was late in the game, 4:02. All right, I got it now, Gav. I got it. We got it. We're going to get there. I just got to get to the right spot in the game. We're almost there. I will show you your sack of your Kerry Hyder sack that you want to see. That's the cool part about this channel. You ask and you shall receive. There we go. So let's get to it. Let me pull it up really quick. By popular demand, this, like I said, this was a call-in show. This was, you guys asking for your what you wanted to see, asking your questions. Gav says he wanted to see the sack. He said either we get to see the sack for Kerry Hyder or we're going to riot. So let's go ahead. Let me pull that up right now onto the screen. If I can, man, I am struggling today. Here we go. Boom. There we go. And it's going to be okay. Let me get to it about. So we're right in that area here. It's going to be, I think it might be this play. If it's not this play, Gav, it's going to be the next one. But we're going to get to watch Kerry Hyder get his sack. 49ers, a guy that the 49ers had picked up a couple of years ago. It's going to come up on the next one. But still, nice pressure on that play by that 49ers defensive line. That group, these guys just get after it. And this is a little bit of a different group. You have Javon Hargrave out on the field along with all the backups. Kevin Givens is out there. You have Kerry Hyder and Austin Bryant. So the only starter on the field on that right now is Javon Hargrave. And you still see the pressure from that 49ers defensive front. We should be getting to the sack any minute now here, because it's a good, the sack that Hyder gets. It's a nice one too, because it's all about effort. It's not a clean sack. He has to actually work. You see him working the stunt there, and he's going to come up inside and get the sack. I don't know why I'm having problems when it comes to my video. Sometimes it gets stuck a little bit. So here we go. There we go. Terror Dome in the house. He says, Jack Hammer playing the hits like Casey Kasem. There you go. Look at that. Look at that move inside. And then he nails them. We're going to see this one from a couple different angles. We'll see. I think it probably look even better from this angle and from the other one. I'm having technical difficulties with my my film. I'm going to have to call my film guy and say, hey, give me some better film. This thing's causing me problems every week. But there's, you see the sack from Kerry Hyder. Let's see if it doesn't crap out on me again as we try to see it from this angle. But again, you're going to see Hyder out on the right side. He's going to loop around and actually come up the middle. Pressure by both 90 and 56 forced him to step up to the left. And there's Kerry Hyder with a big sack. Now watch the pressure from Kevin Givens. Again, and let's go back. That's again, the only starter on the defensive line right now is big 98 Javon Hargrave in the middle. Let's see how many guys go after Javon Hargrave. He's got 2. That leaves only 1 on Hyder to make the sack. There's a similar situation later on. There was a sack that we had with that we saw from, I think it was, I thought it was the Nick Bosa sack, or not Nick Bosa, excuse me. I thought it was one of the Drake Jackson sacks, but it might not have been, kind of looking back at the film of the game. But there was one play in particular where you had Nick Bosa out there, and he's got multiple guys blocking him, leading to a hit from the others. Just really good stuff. He's got guys all over him all the time, and he's still pressuring them. That's, here's an example of Nick Bosa. Let me get to this one really quick. Let me see if I can find out where I am here on this. Here you go. Yeah, again, here's Bosa getting pressure. This is late in the game. Bosa's in the game, rushing off the right side. Next, you got your starters back in the game now. But watch Bosa. He's got 2 guys. But look at the pressure. Collapses the pocket, gets him out, and then just plaster down the field, finds a hole. Fred Warner's got to do a better job of sticking to 11 right there instead of letting him stay open. But again, that pressure up front, you're not going to see Matthew Stafford be able to move. He's not the mover like a Kenny Pickett. He has ability to move, but he's not as good. Kenny Pickett is one of the more mobile guys in the NFL. And that's one where Warner just kind of gets lost in coverage. But again, you see the pressure by this defense up front. Does a really nice job. The Hargrave sack, as Gav says, let me go back. I should have, maybe what I need to do also is maybe I need to start doing the defensive film breakdowns, because I enjoyed looking at those, and I sometimes struggle with getting the, getting that out and sharing it with you guys and sharing all of the little bits and pieces. I'm much more comfortable on the offensive side of the ball in terms of understanding what's happening. Nick Bosa is not on the field, but let's look at, now since he asked, we're, again, according to Terror Dome, we are going to play the greatest hits here on the Jack Hammer Show today. So let's go ahead. Let's pull this one back up. Let's pull the defensive film up again. Let's get to the Gravedigger sack for Javon Hargrave here at the end of the game in the 4th quarter. Almost there. We're getting there. Trust me. And there it is. And it'll be better. We'll watch it, but instead of me trying to get it right to the right spot, let's watch this from the end zone. Watch the push that Javon Hargrave gets. The 49ers showing blitz to start with. So everybody's trying to figure out who. I got him, you got him. They all back out. It's just a 4-man rush, but Hargrave just runs right around 73. 73 had a rough game. There's one play in here early on with Javon Kinlaw. Watch Hargrave. He's at right defensive tackle, just taking that inside gap, just runs right by him, takes him down. Javon Kinlaw falling on top of him. But just what a job there. And really quick, one other thing I want to say, if I do a show every week with Larry Krueger. Every Friday we get together, we do a show together. I followed Larry for a long time, listened to him on the radio at KNBR. He had a really good interview. If you haven't seen it yet, get over his channel. He had a nice one-on-one interview with Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw, it was a little bit of a rough season last year. He's had 3 rough years in San Francisco. But Javon Kinlaw and Larry Krueger had a nice conversation yesterday. It's on his channel. If you haven't checked it out, get over to Larry's channel. Check out that interview that he did with Javon Kinlaw. What I liked about it is I felt in watching that, like I learned a lot more about Javon Kinlaw, the person, than I knew about him in the first 3 years. I was out in Vegas with the team. Javon Kinlaw came to the podium, and in that situation, I don't know if Javon is really comfortable, and so he comes off a little rough around the edges. But man, you watch that video that Larry has on his channel of that interview, and you can see a guy who isn't standoffish. You can see he might be a little bit at the beginning, but then as Larry starts asking the questions and talking about different things that go in part of his game, Javon Kinlaw's whole demeanor changes, and it just becomes a conversation between 2 guys. And I really, for Javon Kinlaw, I just felt like that was something that really came out good for him. It was good to see him have a conversation with a media person and doing it one-on-one like that. And it was a informal setting, Larry's really good about the way that he handles those interviews. He's a much better interviewer than me when it comes. Obviously he's been doing radio for years. I'm new to it when it comes to this. So yeah, as Terror Dome says here, that was an excellent interview. Larry K, one of the best in the business. Yeah, I again, if you get a chance after you're done watching me, get over to Larry Krueger's channel, look up the Javon Kinlaw interview that he did in the locker room with him yesterday. Really good stuff, really informative. And like I said, it just really kind of showed the personality of Javon Kinlaw in a different way. I think there's a lot, when it comes to Javon Kinlaw, I think there's a lot of, he's very defensive in some ways. And I wouldn't say he's defensive, that's not the right way, but the personality that he portrays is one in which he's guarded. I think that's the better way of putting it, a little bit guarded. So sometimes he comes off a little rougher around the edges than he really is. He's a rough guy, right? In terms, he's a defensive lineman. Those guys are tough. Those guys are rough, all that kind of stuff. But as it really, I think, showed him more as a person and the kind of guy that the players get to see that the media usually doesn't. And fans don't either, because we really, I think he's much better in that one-on-one scenario than he is at the podium, as with all these different questions coming out. And I don't know if he really trusts everybody. I think Larry was able to gain some trust in that conversation. I think that's why it came out so good. So there you go. There you have it. 40, we've been doing this for about almost an hour now. Make sure you join tomorrow. I'll be doing a show at some point tomorrow on some things that have to do with the quarterback position, some things people have missed there. And we'll take a look at some plays with Brock Purdy and some of the reasons why he does so well. We're going to take a look at that tomorrow. I put out a request for some questions, and one of the members of the channel hit me up over on with a direct message to ask a question about Brock Purdy. I'm actually going to use that tomorrow as a beginning for the discussion on the quarterback there. We'll also do a pregame show on Sunday at some time from SoFi. We'll also be doing a postgame show after the game. So, hey, the 49ers, you look at this matchup right now against the Rams. This is the 49ers final practice recap for this game. Just to hit it one more time, just to make sure everybody's up on this. Samuel Womack of the 49ers is out against the Los Angeles Rams. He injured the MCL in his knee on Wednesday. He is going on short-term IR. The team expects to have him back, or hopes to have him back, within 6 to 8 weeks. There's a possibility that they'll bring up Trace Swilling, Shamar Jean-Charles, or Quantrez Knight from the practice squad. That is the only injury for the 49ers. As far as the Los Angeles Rams, their big wide receiver, rookie who had 10 catches, 119 yards in week 1, Puka Nacua, is listed as questionable, along with center Coleman Shelton, Russ Yeast, who is a safety, and linebacker Ernest Jones. But Sean McVay is confident that all 4 of those players will be ready to go on Sunday. Aaron Donald actually had the day off today. He had a vet day. He took it off and rested to get ready for that matchup here in week 2. A big game for the 49ers down in Los Angeles. The winner will be the number 1 in the NFC West by at least one game as they get going into week 3. So, hey, thank you all so much. Take it for what it's worth. Appreciate everybody for checking out the channel. If you can do me a favor, please hit that like button. Also, if you're watching the show and you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. And then once you subscribe, one last thing, make sure you turn your notifications on. I just got done talking about some shows that are going to be coming up tomorrow and Sunday, and then moving forward. I don't necessarily have it scheduled yet, so having your notifications on will let you know when the show goes live, and you'll get a chance to check it out. So again, thanks everybody for taking the time to tune in. Terror Dome, longtime 49er fan, says this is Rams week. It's always really good, especially when both these teams are good right now, even though it's only week 2. These are the top 2 teams in the NFC West. So thank you so much for everybody for watching. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll be back tomorrow, like I said. So keep it locked in here to Inside the Farmers with Jack Hammer for all your latest 49ers news and updates as we move forward throughout this 2023 season. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your